Welcome to my diary entry for today. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a 2-for-1 deal because not only will I be showing you how to make the pattern for a double-breasted jacket, I'll also be showing you how to make your basic jacket pattern, which is what you need to make various jacket designs. And trust me, I will be making various jacket designs on my channel, so don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you do not miss out on any of these. So this is my inspiration for this jacket, and what I see here is a loosely fitted jacket that can be worn over any garment as well as on its own, and the sleeves are loosely fitted as well. So to make mine, I have referred to my favorite sewing book by Helen Joseph Armstrong, in addition to what I know from my sewing school. So my version of this jacket will have 4 style lines, 2 at the front and 2 at the back. The buttons will be down below. It will also be loosely fitted, and the sleeve will be a very simple 2-piece sleeve that's loosely fitted as well. I think I can do lots of things with this particular pattern. I can make it into a cropped double-breasted jacket, or I can even make it into a double-breasted dress. So I'm really looking forward to trying out many things I can do with this particular pattern. Alright then, go ahead and grab all your grabbables and let's get started. Now don't forget to give this video as many likes as you can and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. My name is Ijoma and welcome to my sewing diary. The materials you will need are your traced darted basic body. Do the same dart transfer at the armhole by slashing the line drawn and transferring 3/8 of an inch from the bust dart to the armhole. Then mark a point 1/4 inch out and up at the top armhole. At the bottom armhole, mark a point 1/2 inch down and out, and redraw your new armhole like so. Complete your shoulder line by joining your new shoulder point to your new neck point. Then go ahead and mark a point 1/2 inch out at your hem, and connect this point to the new bottom armhole with your long ruler. Also complete your hem with your short ruler. I've removed all excess paper to show you the outline. Now you have just completed your front basic jacket pattern, which you will need to make any jacket design. Set this aside for a while we work on the back pattern. On your back pattern, transfer your shoulder dart to your back armhole by drawing a line from the tip of the shoulder dart to any point on the armhole. Slash through the new line to the tip of the shoulder dart, and then close your shoulder dart. This will cause the armhole to increase. Redraw your shoulder line and place extra pattern paper underneath the wider armhole, and redraw your armhole with your curved ruler like so. Redraw your back neckline 1/8 inch in from the original, ending 1/8 inch up from the neck point at the shoulder line. Mark a point 1/4 inch out and up from the top armhole or shoulder point. Mark another point 1/4 inch out from halfway on the armhole. Also mark 1/2 inch down and out from the bottom armhole. Redraw your back armhole like so. And then complete your shoulder line by joining your new shoulder points to your new neck point with your short ruler. Mark a point 1/2 inch out from the side hem, and connect these points to the new bottom armhole with your long ruler like so. Also complete the new hem with your short ruler. And you're done with your back jacket pattern. So now that you're done with your front and back basic jacket patterns, go ahead and label them, and then trace them out on fresh pattern paper for manipulation. Now your front pattern should be traced with enough room at the center front, as this will be essential to your manipulation. Measure and record your front and back armhole length for creation of the sleeve. Draw a slash line from your bust points to the center front. Cut through this line, and then transfer 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch of your bust dart to this point as you've done before. Seal the transferred dart and place extra pattern paper underneath the opening created at the center front. Redraw your side line and center front afterwards. Label your neck point at your shoulder tip A, and then extend your shoulder line in a straight line like so. Mark a point 3 times the width of your button away from the center front at the hem, and extend the line upwards in a straight line, making sure you complete the bottom as well. Mark a point 1 inch away from point A and label point C. This is your collar stand. Mark a point 3 inches down from your neck point at the center front and label point B. This is your center front depth, where the lapels will overlap. I'd initially marked mine 1 inch above my bust point, but realized that it wasn't going to work for a double-breasted jacket and marked it 3 inches down from my neck point instead. With your long ruler,
Draw a line from point C through point B and ending at your new extended center front. Label the point where it touches your extended center front point D. This is the break point of your lapel, and the line drawn is called your roll line. Fold your pattern on your roll line like so, and then go ahead and trace your neckline from point C to point A and through the actual neckline. When you're done, outline all traced marks and extend your new neckline inwards following the curve by 1/3 inches. Label this point E. With your protractor or 90-degree ruler on center front line, draw a straight line 2 inches long from point E and label point F. Basically, the line drawn should be perpendicular to your center front. Join point F to point D with a straight line and then curve it out a little bit like so. You have just created your lapel. Fold your pattern on your roll line and trace out your lapel. You'll be tracing the new curve you have just drawn, as well as your extended neckline from point F to point E to the roll line. When you're done, outline your traced marks, making sure you indicate point E in your traced part. Measure the length of your back neckline from actual center back to neck point and nose down. You will need this to create your collar. So it's time to create the collar. Now mark a point G 1/4 inch away from point A on the left hand side. And then draw a straight line up from this point. So you want your ruler to be touching your front neck when you're drawing the straight line. Then mark your back neck measurement plus 1/8 inch on this line from point G and label point I. Mark point J halfway on your point G to I line. Also connect point G to your original neckline with your curved ruler like so. Mark point K 1/2 inch away from point I on the left hand side. And then connect point K to point J with your short ruler and extend point K to the right hand side in a straight line. Mark a point the width of your collar on the extended line. I used 2 3/4 inch and label point L. Extend point L in a straight line downwards. From point G, mark a point same distance as the width of your collar and label point H where it stops. Mark a point 6/8 inch from the tip of your traced lapel and connect to point E with a straight line. Mark a point 1/6/8 inch on this line from point E and label point M. Connect points L, H and M like so. Also curve line K, J, G with your curved ruler like so. Add a 1.5 inches hem allowance at the bottom and you're almost done manipulating your front double-breasted jacket. Okay, so go ahead and take a breather, if possible have a cup of tea. We'll be giving the jacket a nice style line and preparing the lining pieces next. With extra pattern paper underneath, go ahead and first trace out 2 front jacket pieces without the collar like so. Set the main aside for future variations while we work on the traced patterns. On another piece of fresh pattern paper, also trace out 2 pieces of your collar. And then on one of the traced collar piece, add a ½ inch seam allowance at the top and side, a ¼ inch seam allowance at the bottom, and nothing at the center back. This is your main collar piece. On the other piece, add a ½ inch seam allowance at the center back, top and side, and a ¼ inch seam allowance at the bottom. This is your under collar. Set these aside when you're done. We will start with preparing your style lines for the main jacket. So on one of your traced front patterns, first mark a point halfway on the shoulder line and connect it to your waist dart with your short ruler like so. Then separate your pattern pieces at the waist dart like so to produce center front and side front pieces. On the side front piece, snip a little at the bust point and then close your bust dart and redraw your side line like so. Add a ½ inch seam allowance at the style line, side, armhole and shoulder line. You will not need to add any additional hem allowance because recall you have already done this. Label your pattern. You'll be cutting 2 of this. On your center front piece, add a ½ inch seam allowance at the style line and shoulder line and a ¼ inch seam allowance at the neckline and lapel, remembering to not add anything at the hem too. Label your pattern. You'll be cutting 2 of this. Set these aside when you're done. Now it's time to prepare the front lining and facing pieces. First, reduce your hem allowance by 1 inch by marking 1 inch up from the previous hem allowance and then ruling a line across. Then find the mid mark on your lapel and mark 1/8 of an inch out from this point and redraw your lapel like so. Mark a point ½ an inch out from your upper armhole or shoulder tip like so. Also mark a point ½ an inch up and a ¼ inch away from your lower armhole. Redraw your armhole like so. And then connect your new lower armhole to the hem with your long ruler like so. Then go ahead and separate the pattern as you did the main by marking a point halfway along the shoulder line, connecting it to the waist dart and separating your pattern. Add your seam allowance the same way you did the main and label your patterns. You'll be cutting 2 of each. Okay, so we're done with the front, main, lining and facing pieces. Let's crack on with the corresponding back pieces. Take off the zipper allowance at the center back if you've used my method of tracing and trace another back piece. Extend the bottom of each piece by 1½ inches as you did the front, and this will be the hem allowance. And then starting with the main piece, find a point midway on the shoulder line and connect this to the back waist dart line with your short ruler. Separate your pattern pieces like so afterwards and add your seam allowances, round and label. You'll be adding a ½ inch seam allowance at the style line, side line, armhole and shoulder line. You will not need to add any at the center back as it will be cut on fold. And you'll also need to add a ¼ inch seam allowance at the neckline. So you'll be cutting your center back on fold and 2 of your side back pieces. Set these aside when you're done. For the back lining and facing, mark a point halfway along the shoulder line. Now you do not need to connect it to the back waist dart, so ignore that line. Then go ahead and mark this same measurement down from the back neckline, connecting all points afterwards with your curved ruler. This is your facing, and the bottom part is your lining. Reduce the hem of the lining piece by marking 1 inch up from the hem and rolling a line across. Then separate your facing from the lining at the curved line like so, making sure to indicate notch lines for joining back together. On the facing piece, go ahead and add a 1/2 inch seam allowance round except at the center back and neckline. You'll be adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance at the neckline and will not need to add any seam allowance at the center back. Label your facing pattern. You'll be cutting this on fold. At the back armhole, go ahead and make the same adjustments as you did the front lining armhole. And that is marking 1/2 inch out from the shoulder tip or top armhole, 1/2 inch up and a 1/4 inch out from the bottom armhole, redrawing your armhole, and then connecting your new bottom armhole to the new hem with your long ruler. When you're done, add a 1/2 inch seam allowance round and label your pattern. You'll be cutting this on fold. Now onto the sleeve. Create your basic sleeve block using your previously measured front and back armhole length. I've included a link for how to make your basic sleeve block in the description box below. When you're done, trace out an extra piece as we'll be working with 2 pieces, one for the lining and the other for the main. Starting with the main, fold your front and back sleeve heads such that the tips touch the center line. Measure and mark a point 1/4 inch from the tips on the bicep line at the front and back, and extend these points upwards in a straight line. Trace the front and back curves on the bulk of the pattern like so. Label X at the folded top point like so. Open the fold and label the points. The points on the trace curves should be labeled Z, and the points on the actual curves point Y. Divide your hemline into 4. I've numbered for easy referral, you don't have to. Label points 2 and 4 X. And then mark a point halfway on the elbow line on each side of the center line and label X. Connect all X points with your short ruler like so. At the hem, mark a point 6/8 inch away from point X on each side and label point Y. At the elbow line, mark a point 1 inch away from point X on each side and label point Y too. Join all point Ys with your short ruler. Going back to the hem, mark a point 6/8 inch in at point X at both sides and label point Z. Also mark a point 1 inch in from point X at both sides on the elbow line and label point Z too. Connect all point Zs with your short ruler. You have just completed your inner and outer sleeve, and now it's time to trace out each part. With your manipulated pattern on a fresh piece of pattern paper, trace out your inner sleeve, which is all of point Z's connecting line and enclosure. Also trace out your outer sleeve, which is all of point Y's connecting lines and enclosure. Make sure you indicate your back and front on each pattern piece. Then go ahead and redraw the lines like so for a more curved sleeve. On the inner sleeve, you'll be curving in slightly at the back and out slightly at the front. On the outer sleeve, you'll be curving out slightly at the back and in slightly at the front, all the while ensuring you have smooth connecting slight curves. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the sides and head and a 1.5 inches seam allowance at the hem. Label your pattern. You'll be cutting 2 of each. Set these aside while we work on the lining sleeve. On your other traced sleeve pattern, first lower your crown by 1/2 inch and redraw your sleeve head with your curved ruler. Then on each sleeve side, mark a point 1/2 inch up and a 1/4 inch out from the sides like so, and connect the point to the hem with your long ruler. Redraw the sleeve head to touch the point made. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance round, including at the hem, and label your pattern. You'll be cutting 2 of this. And you're done! Your double-breasted jacket pattern is complete. I'll be putting this together next week, so don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out. Until next week, see you later. Bye!